You are not too. Of course, there can be some tricky aspects to such a pursuit. There are overlooked assumptions that make it even harder than it need be. For example, there is nothing you can manifest as or be other than something. If you're not something, how could you be known or establish your place within existence? You couldn't, not without being something. Given you are a human, you exist as a body and, in our modern culture, a mind. Whatever you find to be you, in other words, whatever you identify with as yourself, is what exists as you. There is nothing else. You may be confused with such a statement since you've probably heard me say that your nature is nothing, that you are without element. Now it seems I'm saying you're only something. This is because you probably don't fully understand the real nothing to which I'm referring. This isn't surprising, as we will see in the upcoming sections. My communications in this matter can come out rather baffling and confusing at times. As difficult as it is to entertain, when I say you are nothing, I really mean there is absolutely nothing there. No quality, no element, no dimension, no relative existence of any kind. You don't exist. So anything there would have to be something, wouldn't it? You appear to be there, to exist. So this is what is known as you, and is how you are known at all. But in truth, your essence or nature actually has no element. Such nature doesn't exist in any form. This point is not only difficult to grasp, it leads to much mischief. So let's see if we can clarify the matter a bit. When we entertain the notion that we may not experience who we really are, or take up some spiritual belief of a higher or ethereal existence, we will make a distinction between our physical or mortal existence and some other form of existence. The moment this happens, which may be an inevitable step when questioning or contemplating what you really are, immediately there is a distinction between one and the other. This provides the idea of two entities. Although this may be a preliminary distinction or stage in pursuing enlightenment, it is false. It can be said to think that you are a body, mind, or a character and a person is also false. But these two stances, that you are a body, mind, or you are something else, are both erroneous. So how is it possible to conceive this error and to think what is correct in this case? It's not. That's the problem. Conception demands distinction. So we can't think or imagine this paradox because it's prior to any distinction. Everything experienced or known in any way is a distinction, and so is relative. That means it is that and not something else. This doesn't mean it is precise or clear. Unclear, amorphous, and vague are distinctions also. All of your perceptions, experiences, and knowledge occur solely as distinctions. They are also always relative, meaning they are in relation to what they are not. Up relates to down, fast to slow, smart to stupid, large to small, you to not you, and so on. If they aren't that, they don't exist as that. And objects exist in relation to other objects as well as in the space that contains it and surrounds it, but isn't it. Do you get how I'm using the word distinction? All of reality is known via distinctions. Therefore, when you consider that whatever you currently experience isn't your true nature, this immediately generates the notion that your nature is elsewhere, giving you the idea that your very being or what you actually are is different from what you experience as yourself. By standing on such a notion, you can now wonder, what is your real nature? Without such a distinction, why and how would you contemplate this matter? Where would you put your attention? You would simply accept your experience of self and as your nature. But if you consider that it is not, you will, without thinking about it, conclude that your true nature is something else. This notion might provide a way to proceed with our investigation by giving us a method to search out what we really are. It must only serve us temporarily. We should be open to the possibility that it won't be where we will ultimately end up, since by definition this is beyond our ability to imagine from our pre-conscious perspective. But the function of creating this distinction is to have a catalyst, something applied to make a change that itself doesn't remain after the change. As I wrote in another book, introducing something temporarily that allows a process to move forward is the point of the story of the wandering Abdul. Abdul is traveling with his camel in the desert. He comes across a heated inheritance dispute amongst 3 brothers. Their father recently died and has left them 17 camels, decreeing that half should go to his eldest son, a third to the middle son, and 1/9 to the youngest. But the 17 camels don't divide up easily that way. To solve this dilemma, Abdul donates his camel to the dead man's estate. Then, with 18 camels, they can divide them up with half, 9, going to the oldest son, 1/3, 6, to the middle son, and 1/9, 2, to the youngest son, thus totaling 17. Abdul then takes his camel back and goes on his way. Our purpose for considering that you are not what you experience or know as yourself is to be used as a temporary goal, an asserted camel, so to speak, without fixating on it as a final goal, but rather as a useful stepping stone. Although perhaps it creates the possibility for this kind of deep contemplation, it also forms the false idea that your nature is something separate from yourself. Yet we're talking about the true nature of yourself, not something else. There are not 2 yous. There is only one you. And to tell the truth, there isn't even that, except as a distinction. What is the absolute nature of your very existence? It turns out that through direct consciousness you discover what's really true is that your nature has no element to it whatsoever. A word of caution, however, whatever idea you may have of what I just said, that's not it. The actual consciousness is absolutely not any thought that could possibly arise. I speak about this nature just to continue with the communication about this common dynamic of imagining you are 2. Since your nature has no aspect at all, it can't be pinned down as something, because in so doing it would then have an aspect to it, which means it would be a particular thing and not another. Certainly this makes it sound like your nature is something other than yourself, because yourself is chock full of aspects. So how can you understand the statement that it isn't? Although you could say that your nature is itself and not what it is not, the paradox is that it is also not separate from anything. This is challenging to understand, so perhaps a metaphor might help.